Negotiations appear to have stalled in the House as Republicans seek a budget agreement with just 12 days remaining before government funding expires. Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy is walking a delicate tightrope among various blocs in the House, with many conservative members objecting to any spending extension that continues funding the Biden administration's policies and priorities. As discussed on Washington Watch yesterday with Congressman Bob Good, the deal between the members of the Freedom Caucus and the Main Street Caucus didn't get off the ground. Is there a way forward? Joining me now to discuss this and more, Congressman Matt Gaetz. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee, the House Armed Services Committee, and the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Congressman, welcome back to the program. Great to see you.
Good to see you too, Tony.
All right, you have been an outspoken no vote on the continuing resolution. Is there a way forward from your perspective right now?
Well, there's always a way forward, but it won't be business as usual. In January, I set out to end the era of voting on omnibus spending bills and continuing resolutions because I believe it is fundamentally unserious for the United States of America to have its lawmakers cast one vote on all of the funding for these disparate agencies, from the Department of Labor to the Department of Education to the EPA. These agencies should have to stand up and defend their budgets. And those budgets should be open to amendments from Republicans and Democrats to reduce spending. We are entering an era where we are about to have $2 trillion annual budget deficits atop a $33 trillion debt. It is totally unsustainable. Now, I'm glad this continuing resolution failed because we've got to get away from that paradigm and we've got to embrace the path forward of single subject spending bills. Kevin McCarthy promised this to us when he became Speaker, and he has failed to deliver, which is why we're in the position we're in now.
Congressman, you talk about the Appropriations Bill. Let's go back to the raising of the debt ceiling. Wasn't that a part of the conversation? Was that, yeah, we're going to get to the cuts, but it's going to be in the appropriations bills. Now we're already seeing the Senate combining these appropriations. They haven't passed them on the Senate floor yet. So we're right back where we were before.
Yeah, you've smelled the rat, because when they did the debt limit, they said, oh, well, this is just a maximum. You see, we can appropriate to a level below that. And then sure enough, Washington finds a way to spend every waking dollar that we can possibly get our grimy little hands on. And if that's going to be the case, then members ought to have to defend their votes for each of the 12 separate appropriations bills, not just say, oh, well, sure, I voted to keep funding all of the woke and weaponized things at the Department of Education, but that's just because I really support our troops and our veterans. You see, the way Washington has worked since I think 1997 has been to construct this system where individual members of Congress can avoid accountability for the votes that they cast on spending. I believe we can change Washington, but we have to dispense with this notion that we're going to do any kind of continuing resolution, and we need to start individually moving these bills forward, whether they pass or fail.
If Republicans do not have a reduction in spending in this CR and they just advance the current CR, are they not then taking responsibility for the Biden policies and the Biden budget?
Yeah, a continuing resolution that continues these high levels of funding functions as a permission slip for Jack Smith's election interference.
And they own
functions
it.
As
they then own it.
Oh, yeah, they do. And there were some moderate Republicans who told me today that if we don't agree to a continuing resolution on their terms, they'll simply sign what's called a discharge petition, where they take control of the floor alongside the Democrats and move just a total continuation of the Biden era spending. And I told them if they do that, I could not stop them, just like I couldn't stop someone from signing their own death warrant and handing it to their executioner, because it'll be the very Democrats that moderate Republicans work with who will then hunt those moderate Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections. You don't want to make coalition with them.
I would tell you what I would do if I were going to run for Congress. I would run to the right of these members in some of these districts, and I would say, you voted for the Biden, Pelosi, Schumer budget. And if they vote to continue it, even for a month, without some form of reduction, they own it.
Tony, you had me at hello. We'll show you the districts, and I'll be your first volunteer to knock on doors if you're interested. But I think it is important for us to go through this process of showcasing to the American people what coalition truly governs them. And if the coalition that truly governs them is a group of weak Republicans and the Democrats, then let's codify that, and let's have God-fearing conservatives work against that coalition, laying out a vision so that in elections, people can make a choice for something different than they've gotten out of leadership in both parties for the last several decades.
Well, Matt, I will say that we're better off than we were 15 years ago. In terms of the makeup of Congress, we have more conservatives like you that are willing to fight. So things are getting better. They're not there yet. So let's talk about, all right, given what we've just talked about, what is the way forward? What has to happen? I don't think there's time to get all of the 13 appropriations bills through in the next 12 days. I think it can be done within a month. So what needs to happen to buy the time to get those appropriations bills through?
Well, before we come up with the remedy, I think we have to have the diagnosis. Why is it that during 8 months of Republican control of the Congress, we have gotten off schedule in producing spending bills? We can't blame Joe Biden for that. We can't blame the Democrats for that, or Chuck Schumer. That's something that was totally within our control, we failed at. So there has to be a reckoning there.
True.
And we may have to change out personnel in order to run those plays more successfully in the future.
Are you saying this could be the trigger on a motion to vacate the chair?
Undeniably, it could, because Kevin McCarthy's promises on spending were very central to the agreement we've made with him. And not only has he violated those promises in the debt deal and in not producing these bills on time, but he's violated other substantive features of that deal. Notably, a vote on congressional term limits, a vote on a balanced budget amendment, full release of the January 6th tapes. Those things haven't happened. They were promised. And ultimately, if you're going to allow people to break their deals, then nothing's ever going to change around here. The lobbyists and the special interests and their vassal states who wear congressional pins will still be in charge, and the needs of the people will be subjugated. Well, what do we need to do to buy time? We're out of time. We're looking at $2 trillion annual deficits, so we will face a shutdown. It will be difficult. Leaders will have to own that shutdown who failed to do their job. And then I think the only way to do this is to roll up our sleeves and plow through it. That means if we got to work 12-hour days, if we got to stay on the weekends. I mean, Tony, we just came back from a 6-7 week period where we were out of Washington entirely. Why weren't we here doing the hard work that's necessary to balance budgets?
Do not disagree. I think that these bad habits are hard to break, and you may very well be right. It may take a government shutdown and having to work through that shutdown to get Congress back working the way it should. Reform often requires a little pain, and this may be it. Congressman, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. Always great to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.